Good evening, folks. It's another new week, which means the Front Runner Football podcast is back as we head into the second week of the month of June. And it's time now to kind of recollect on what's been happening. And of course, we've been touching on a lot of stuff in recent times, clubs being sold, what's going to happen to the state of local football with COVID. So all of those things we'll probably touch on here in this discussion as I'm joined by John T. Mark and Mazola Mulefe, aka Super Journo, just to kind of go through the news cycle, gents. And I guess let's start off with some good news. Ben Mutwari is said to have recovered fully from COVID. And I guess, if anything, it's an example that it's possible under the right conditions to make sure players quarantined and they'll make a full recovery. And we're hoping, obviously, with the rumors that we might resume football, that we don't hear about more of these cases, Mazola.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, we would have expected sort of. I think earlier when even the announcement was made, some 2-3 weeks ago about Ben contracting the virus, that as a footballer, healthy at his age, should be able to make a quick recovery. And I think even the club had showed that he had had told us that he had showed mild symptoms. So
Yeah.
you kind of always sort of expected a recovery, and it's good also that when he's recovered, they've been able to come back to let us know. And also, I think it's important to educate people that if you are healthy and you follow the protocols and you observe good hygiene, and that recovery is possible. We know that there are people that are more vulnerable to this virus than some are, depending on the age group and that. So and I think when the story broke of him contracting the virus, it was on the day that the executive committee were meeting for the first time to discuss a return to football. And I think obviously they, at the time, we kind of discussed it as some sort of a blow into those discussions, and whatever sort of concerns or worries football federations and the government had about sports returning would have dealt those a blow. But with him recovering, it's obviously it's one of those that you can show as proof that if you are fit, healthy, and you follow all the guidelines, you should be able to make a recovery as well. So yeah, it's good that the club has followed that up.
Yeah, and John T, I mean, to that point, I guess, as a club, you'd much prefer it happens now when there's this lull in football, as opposed to when, training resumes and, we're trying to get back to playing full contact. As a club, I'm sure you just rather have this to deal with out of that situation because, let's be honest, we still could be contending with more positive cases in the next coming weeks, especially when, training begins, when football begins. No one's immune per se, even though all the regulations will have been taken into cognizance.
Yeah, totally. I mean, obviously it's a case of testing everyone as often as possible. We see it done in the EPL where they seem to test every player every week. So you've got to make sure that you've got a clean and healthy environment that you're training in if you're going to keep the bubble, as they say, clear of the virus as much as possible, or hopefully 100%. But yeah, it's certainly something that Pirates, I'm sure, it's better for Ben Motshwari to have had and recovered now than for him to have it in the camp, and perhaps it spreads around the Pirates squad, and you have a worst case scenario of Pirates having to shut down completely if and when they do start training. So hopefully all the clubs can get underway training as soon as possible, although that is still another story for another day.
What do you mean another day? We're going there next. Anyway, yes.
Oh, we can go there. Another story for later in the podcast. But yeah, it's definitely good to hear that Ben Motshwari's made a full recovery, and hopefully at some point going forward, we can see him in a Pirate shirt, and we can see the PSL up and running again in a healthy COVID-free environment.
Okay, well, let's move there immediately, right? Because why not? Let's keep the momentum going as far as this latest kind of report from sources that the PSL are unhappy that SAFA are being the stumbling block as far as returning to play is concerned. Wow, I'm shocked that these two bodies couldn't come together and make something happen. Even though I'm sure a lot of us saw it coming from a mile away. So
Comes.
no, I think we did. I think we did, and we've been proven correct here because I mean, if these sources, where there's smoke, there's fire, right? We always say that on the podcast. And then now we have a situation where, never mind the fact that there's, a report that, or sources are saying that SAFA being EPs, enemies of progress. My whole thing is, how long has it taken for us to get to this conclusion? Because now all the stuff about work together, that's going to go out the window, surely, if the PSL saying, listen, actually, we just want to put our own case forward. Or, I mean, are the rules of engagement by the authorities that they come together? It's seeming that the mess that they wanted to avoid is not going to be avoided anyway, Mazon.
Yeah, look, obviously SAFA have come out and denied that there's such a thing, as you would have expect them to. I don't think they would have. I don't think Dominic Chimavi would have come out to say exactly that's true. We don't. We've had all these task teams and these deadlines and these reports, and no, we are definitely the stumbling block to football coming back. There's no way they would have obviously admitted to that. So, and you're quite right in saying, it was almost predictable that there would be this sort of thing, that the two bodies would come together or really and still not be on the same page. I don't think it's shocking to anyone. When a story like that sort of breaks, you think, oh well, that fair enough. That's that was expected. So, but yeah, I think that's one of the things that had come out from last week's BOG as well. That possibly, and I think we discussed it on here on this podcast, that possibly the PSL feel that as a body they can write to the government and present their COVID-19 regulations and their own report as to how they can return to playing football again. So yeah, but then again, for me, that contradicts what Sports Minister Natim Tetwa said about SAFA and the PSL needing to come together to speak in one voice. If the minister says that, and then one of the bodies then just single-handedly goes out of their way to sort of present a report that's only sort of one-sided without the other federation or body stakeholder also being part of that presentation, then it contradicts the minister and it defeats the purpose of this whole 14-day task team to report back to the Joint Liaison Committee, which we know that Joint Liaison Committee is a committee that exists by name only. I mean, I think up until this COVID-19 situation, they probably hadn't met in forever. I don't know how long, but it definitely hadn't met in a long time. So how do you expect a body that has to make such crucial decisions, that's supposed to be meeting regularly, and is only now just coming together under such difficult and complex situations? How do you expect them to be on the same page? I mean, it was always going to be tricky.
Yeah, I mean, John T, obviously, for the league, it's time sensitive. We're running out of weeks, we're running out of months before we can, get this football done and start a new season, which, the more it looks like it's going to be a back-to-back kind of situation. And I think that's maybe probably what's, going to make the league go out of pocket, as it were, as far as, no, we're not going to actually have to go just with SAFA. We have a deadline that we need to get this football played by. So if someone's stifling the opportunity to present and get some ideas on the table, then surely, you have to look after the interests of those 32 members of the BOG and then say to yourselves, well, listen, in those interests, no matter what SAFA are doing, I need to protect my participants, the people who make this league possible, even if SAFA are stifling the process.
Look, they had a BOG meeting, a PSL BOG meeting last week, and my understanding is that all 32 clubs voted again that the season must be finished, the 2019-20 season. They want it finished. My understanding is also in terms of time now, is that it's not necessarily a time limit. You just have to tell FIFA when you think you're going to finish your season. It's quite relaxed. It's not necessarily August 2nd. That's the UEFA thing, but here I think they can extend it beyond. I mean, I was told, for example, that they're looking now at starting next season, even in October, even further down the line.
Right.
I've also had, but it's a difficult situation. I've been told not by one, not by two, by three at least sources that SAFA are deliberately trying to stop football from happening. Now, this is all allegation, but the theory being espoused to me is that they want to explain the fact that they have no money purely on COVID, so that they can get the social grant from government, so that they can then fund themselves using the social grant from government, and that they have no interest in the PSL starting up again. And this is why they are so it's very difficult for the league at the moment to work with SAFA in terms of getting the season up and running.
Okay, there's so much to unpack.
Obviously, SAFA denying it, as Mazzola said. They're not going to say, yes, we're adamant we don't want football to be played.
Yeah.
I've also heard that they kind of saying, SAFA obviously control the referees. So, it's not the first time we've heard that. They could, in theory, stop referees from refereeing games.
Right.
It's a very strange situation. And at some point, like you, I think, just mentioned, Kamza, the PSL may well have to just go straight past SAFA to government and just negotiate with government and say, look, we have a multi-billion rand business here. We need to get it up and running as soon as possible. And and
then if government says, what about the referees?
Well, government may have to lean on SAFA on some level and say, look, you've got to let your referees ref. If it's up to government, there must be some control here, because this is a situation where the longer this thing doesn't happen, the more you have the potential for incidents like we're seeing with Bloom Celtic, like we're seeing potentially with Wits. Like it's a financial. It's very difficult, and more clubs will be in trouble. So I think that they've got to really get it up and running. They've got a plan set up, and I've also been told that obviously at these meetings, SAFA have been adamant. They've had their doctors. They've put out a statement saying you can't play football until level 1. PSL's own report, by my understanding, basically said that they had their own doctors saying that you can play football under certain circumstances, in a bubble, in a place where you create an environment like they have done with the Bundesliga, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But SAFA are being completely adamant, and whether you believe these sort of allegations or rumors, if you like, that it's because they have a vested interest in football not starting, or whether they're just I don't know whether they just really believe that. I don't know, but there's obviously loggerheads, and as Mazzola mentioned, I think this joint task force is clearly not a joint task force. Doesn't seem to be
any unity.
There doesn't seem to be a concerted effort from both parties to get the PSL up and running. I think the PSL are desperate to start, but there's certain things they haven't even started non-contact training yet.
Yeah.
Clubs were ready to start, and if for whatever reason it's not happening at the moment. So
and remember that SAFA statement that came out. I think it came out right in the middle of the BOG meeting. Or was it Friday? Did it come out Friday or did it come out Thursday? Just when the BOG meeting started, the statement saying no football under any circumstances, whether it's social, whether it's a kickabout in your garden.
Yep, that was the 4th of June that was released. Yeah.
See, there you go.
Jonty, there's so much about that conspiracy theory. I'll call it that for now because it's not been backed up by any facts from just the whole thing about them being broke and wanting the grant, and I mean, if there was any truth to that,
Well,
why can't they do both?
saying this. I don't know the financial situation. I don't know if government will say to them, you can't have a
Money for
social grant.
referees, yeah, you can't get a social grant.
There's money coming in now to one of your members, the PSL, who are starting to get up and running again. So I don't know. I just know that what is clear is that the members of the PSL have had enough of SAFA and are very SAFA and feel like they're delaying. I mean, that's not just me. That's the Times article sources. That's not just me. It's clear that are not happy with SAFA and feel like they are delaying the start of the resumption of the 2019-20.
Heavy stuff. I guess we watch and we wait with bated breath to see how this one resolves itself. But there's so much else going on. Not least of which, it seems to be a fire sale. What's happening at Bidvest Wits? Players being bundled together, buy two get one free. Like all sorts of kind of deals are being mooted. Where's the truth in this whole thing? Have Bidvest Wits even come out and said, hey, actually, yeah, sorry guys, we weren't being honest. We are being sold. Where does this one stand, Mazona? Let's start with you. I know both of you have intel on this one.
Yeah. Look, I mean, the fact is there are deals being discussed. That's a fact. There are proposals on the table for at least two players that I know for sure in Thulani Hlatshwayo and Hashim Domingo. At the moment, it doesn't seem like there's 100% an offer for Dion Hoto, but I find that difficult to believe. I'll tell you why. Because why would Sundowns want to sign 3 players and only send proposals to just 2? Of course, if it's a bulk deal, they must send proposals to all 3. So I subsequently believe that there's also an offer on the table for Dion Hoto. As we know, well, I was told 17 million. John T said 20. So they're about in that region then.
Right.
In terms of the bulk sale. And I was also initially told that Sundowns wanted 7 players, but Wits just kind of said, "You crazy? We can't give you 7 players. You can choose the 3 that you want."
Yeah.
And depending on how that goes, then depending on that how that goes, then the deal, the offer could be revised, because let's say they can't agree personal terms. Let's say Tyson wants to go to Pirates instead, or Hashim Domingo wants to go to Pirates, or Dion Hoto wants to go to Pirates, or elsewhere for that matter.
Right.
Then that means that the value has to be revised, because you possibly can't value Tyson the same way you would value perhaps another player that you would have to choose, for instance. So my gut feel and what I'm told, I don't think all 3 will go to Mamelodi Sundowns.
Okay. That kind of makes sense. Obviously, John T, these players are looking out for their opportunities as far as game time is concerned. Yes, you get promised a huge pay packet going to Sundowns and the opportunity to compete at the top level for all the trophies available. But of course, with such a talented squad, game time might be difficult to come by. But back to Wits. So now these sales, or these mooted sales, are these as a direct, or do they have a correlation with the fact that Wits is up for sale and the current owners are trying to maximize on what they have as far as assets are concerned? And, some would say they're stripping the company of assets, or the club of their assets, so they can make some money. So is it all the same pot? Or are we going to find a situation where the players are sold separately from the fact that Wits are sold? Or do they have to happen? Does the one affect the other?
Look, the latest I've heard is that Wits is about 90% sold. Wits is 60% owned by Bidvest, 40% by the university, and the university, by my understanding, haven't actually signed off on the deal yet.
Okay.
By my understanding, though, Wits University will take the money if the money is there. and they will sign the deal. And obviously, money has been paid as a deposit. That's what I have on that. So a deal is going to go through, but it's a bizarre decision by Bidvest to sell the club the year before its 100th anniversary. It's a very weird decision, and you can only say it. I just don't get it 100% why they're selling now.
Mm-hmm.
And I would question. Obviously someone's come in with an offer. The owner of TTM is there with an offer. Now, the other, what you're saying about stripping assets in terms of Tyson and all the other players, I don't know about that.
Do you think these deals would have happened outside of whether the club was being sold or not?
I think that it's fair to say that Tulani Hlatshwayo would not want to go and play for TTM. Neither would Dion Hotto, neither would Domingo. And these guys can find jobs at, they're good players. They'll find jobs.
Right.
As Mazzola, me and Mazzola, I think on the other day wrote a story in a very short space of time of each other, saying almost exactly the same thing as Mazzola mentioned. I think maybe my guy rounded it up to 20 million. His guy said it wasn't much apart. I have heard today another story that Tyson may well not go to Sundowns. He may go to Pirates because he's got such an affinity to Pirates. And if Pirates are, because I think he's a lifelong supporter, he's got, if Pirates are prepared to get Tyson, then Tyson would rather go there. He's always sort of flirted with Pirates in the past as well. I don't think that. I don't think Wits are necessarily stripping assets. Bidvest are stripping assets. They are going to sell the players because they can, and going forward, we'll just have to see what happens with that. I just, obviously the deal also still has to be approved by, by the PSL executive committee, and it's not necessarily a guarantee, although I've not seen deals not go through in the past. Mostly they go through. So, that's where I am with that. I think that Wits players, given a choice, would rather stay at Wits because they like playing at Wits, good club to play for. But if the club doesn't exist, it's just also I would question why have Bidvest not in their own capacity made some sort of statement about the fact that they've sold. Why can't they come forward and say and be honest about it and say, okay, we've sold up. I think it would be better for all parties involved if Bidvest, the owners of the club, would actually come forward and say something. Because obviously now we are relying on people behind the scenes, people in the know, but we can't, we want, it would be good, I think, on the part of Bidvest if they came forward and they just said, we sold the club, or the club's up for sale. But there isn't really coming
well, they've, I mean, in a way, John T, they have kind of come out. They've denied it, but because Alan Feynman, the chairman, which I suppose the Bidvest group would leave it up to him to make a public comment rather than
straight kickoff.
Rather than So I saw he spoke to Chad on Saturday morning or Friday evening, where he said we've not bought anything and we've not sold anything, which comes across as a bit disingenuous, because the fact of the matter is that they are selling players, that they are negotiating behind the scenes with regards to a potential sale. And one of the reasons why they are selling the club, and to what John T is saying, I actually do think they're stripping the club of its assets, because I think the club as it is, the TTM owner can't afford the salary wage bill of those players. I think most players at Wits are paid pretty handsomely. And if he takes the club and relocates it to Venda, I don't think, at least from what we've been told, is that he can't carry all the wage bills.
For sure.
I mean, even the future of Coach Gavin Hunt is up in the air.
Yeah.
So and I think even with him, there's potentially a gag order, of some sort, because we know Hunty is outspoken, but I don't think he's been allowed to say anything to anyone about this. So therefore, his future is also up in the air. I mean, as it is, I wrote a story about 2 weeks ago or so that Hashim Domingo had actually signed a new contract to 2023 at Bidvest Wits, only to now be part of a bulk deal to Mamelodi Sundowns. So, to me, that kind of says, they are sort of trying to leverage the fact that the club is being sold to make that money as soon as they can, and sell what is left of it.
Yeah.
To some degree, yeah.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, that's exactly the point I was going to point towards, was that for Mr. Mulawuti, if he takes over this club, he obviously has to balance that wage sheet with his own ambition.
He has to
because now he wants to stay as well in the league, but you can't do it paying the millions that some of those top earners are going to command. But at the same time, you hope that you have enough left once the Spire sale has been done to keep you in the league. I mean, it's a strange balancing act, and I wonder how much say does he have, or consultation in that. Yeah. Get rid of those guys. Get rid of the 20 bar on my bottom line. I mean, if you're buying something and you're knowing that I want it, but I can't afford it in its current guise, I wonder how much of a discussion there is around who can go and who can stay.
I mean, look, no, all right, what? It's difficult because it's just rumors and talk, but. I mean, I heard something very bizarre today, which is that
you've got the files today, John T. I love the energy. Keep it going.
Bidvest are selling these players off to help TTM purchase the club. So this money that Bidvest make from selling these players will then go to literally to help. They want to get rid of the club, and these sales are going to. I don't know if others heard the same thing, but these sales are going to
absolutely.
These sales are going to help TTM effectively buy the club. They
at a lesser price.
They are part of the purchase agreement.
Absolutely.
Some way.
Right.
So, it's just, are Bidvest that desperate to get rid of Wits that they're doing this? It's just so odd to me that a company that is as lucrative as Bidvest, it's one of the biggest companies in South Africa, that they suddenly can't. I just want to get rid of the club and are prepared to almost make a loss. Almost say, okay, we'll sell these players for you. They can go into the purchase of the club. It's just.
Maybe they're gearing up for bigger things, John T. Maybe they're saving the coin so that they can sponsor the league. We're going to touch that on that in a second. I mean, what are the chances? But I agree with you. It doesn't make sense. A year before your centenary, you're not in the worst position as far as the table is concerned, meaning that you have an opportunity probably next season to keep on earning that grant and make some more money. No one knows. I mean, maybe they're destined for greater things, Mazola. Is that maybe where Bidvest see their future as the sponsor of the whole entire league? There's so many names being bandied about as who could take over from Absa. I mean, could they be theoretically looking to remove themselves from the club situation so that they can have the league to themselves?
I don't think so. I'll tell you why. And I saw this tweet from Far Post last night. It's difficult for me. Obviously, the information came about as a tweet, so we don't know exactly how they got to the information, who they spoke to. So it would have made better sense if it was perhaps put in a form of a story to sort of kind of understand the thinking behind that. Because I'll tell you why I'm saying that is because just last week on the 1st of June, a Bidvest Group released a statement mentioning that their share price, they expected to drop by 20% at the end of June. Therefore, they have been retrenching staff. They've been cutting costs. They are doing all they can to sort of save jobs and stay afloat, if for a lack of a better word.
Yeah.
Why then why then would you go and decide to replace a sponsorship that was contributing in revenue up
Mm.
to 140 million rand a season
If you're
to
doing
the
all of
Premier
that
Soccer League?
austerity, yeah.
So for me, it would not make sense. How can you release a statement like that on the 1st of June, and then a few months down the line, you commit to what could potentially be a deal worth 140, 150 million rand a season? Because I'll
Yeah,
tell you what, I don't think the PSL will settle for anything less.
of
Because if
course.
the PSL settles for anything less, then that impacts the grants, that
Mm-hmm.
impacts their whole operating operations, that impacts on their model of running football or running this industry. So for me, yes, I mean, I was a bit alarmed when I saw that last night, and I was thinking, there's just, for me, it's just absolutely no way. It
Yeah.
doesn't make sense why they would release a statement like that on the 1st of June, and therefore sign themselves up for 130, 140 million plus agreement per
Yeah,
season.
for sure. I guess you know what, when you put it like that, it also kind of maybe brings into the spotlight why they're getting rid of the club. I mean, you know, you speak about them trimming the fat as far as their finances are concerned, and we've all kind of known that, you know, football, unless out you're the big three, you're not really turning over huge amounts of money. So maybe they're just cutting their losses, John T. Maybe that's actually what it is.
Well, I'm with Mazola in the sense that paying 140 million rand a season doesn't make sense for Wits for Bidvest at the moment.
Right.
It doesn't make sense that they would just suddenly move from sponsoring a club to sponsoring an entire league.
Right.
If they are having financial problems, it doesn't make sense to me. But I guess stranger things have happened. I just don't see it. I do think that I do think it's financial, but I get what Mazola is saying about the chairman sort of saying by denying that, you know, they are getting out. I just
Mm.
wish there would be more transparency, I guess. But it's the whole it's the whole it's across football really. There isn't any when it comes to finances. There's no real transparency,
No, it's
and
true.
so you just have to kind of accept it. But I don't see Bidvest being in as total sponsor of the Premier League at the moment.
Okay. I mean, any kind of educated guesses as to who might go into the fray? You don't have to maybe name companies, gentlemen. I just want to know that maybe your sources have kind of said a company that dabbles in this sector or that sector might look at acquiring the rights for the league. Any?
Look, I have to say I haven't heard anything from my side. I also
Uh-huh.
think it's difficult for a company to come on board and say, okay, we'll sponsor you when they don't know when the 2020-21 season is starting. So we'll
Right.
sponsor you from when exactly.
Right.
I guess a deal could be in place to say we'll sponsor you from the start of the season, whenever that is. But
Mm-hmm.
companies, I think, you know, they have annual budgets and they have big finance divisions, and they want to know exactly what month they're starting to pay this money in and what month they're going to stop paying it in, and what, you know, from
Yeah, of
season to season.
course. Of course.
So I don't think you're going to get a concrete thing for a while until we know when this season is going to end and the next one's going to begin. I can't see how, if you're you know, a well-run
Yeah.
or a, you know, a big company, which is likely
Yeah.
to be one that sponsors the PSL, how you're going to make a commitment until you've got your budgets up and you know what you're paying for, basically.
No, I think that's yeah, that's fair. And you know, in a way, Mazola kind of brings us back full circle to the beginning of the discussion that this is probably why the league is saying, "Let us play, man. We need to make this thing look good and look like a good sell or investment for whoever we try to get on board."
Yeah, absolutely. We need to get back to playing football. If the PSL are as confident as they say they are with regards to their report and their COVID-19 regulations around health and safety protocols. And I mean, I even saw a quote somewhere that one member of the PSL Exco was saying their overall COVID-19 regulations are a lot better,
Mm,
even better and stricter than Europe's COVID-19 regulations. Then why not play? Why the delay? Otherwise, if there's just gonna be this back and forth between SAFA and the PSL, just do a point system based on, I don't know, away games played and home games points averages, and then just decide the league, because we simply can't go on like this back and forth, no statements. I mean, till this day, there's not been a single statement from the PSL since mid-March.
Yep, and we'll leave it at that. Gents, thank you so much as far as your impressions and reflections on what's been in the news cycle. Do appreciate it. We'll catch up with you later in the week. Who knows? Maybe by then, this will be the episode where we have some sort of clarity. I've been saying that for the past couple of weeks. And just like Mazola said, still no statement, no nix, no nada. John T, thank you so much as well. Gents, we'll catch up on Thursday. Look after yourselves. Ciao.